I was pulling into my driveway after my meeting got cancelled when I noticed Michael's car was still there. That was odd. He told me this morning he had back-to-back property showings all day. I sat there for a moment, keys in hand, staring at his BMW. Maybe a showing fell through, I told myself. Maybe he came home for lunch. But something felt off. I walked up to the front door as quietly as I could, not really knowing why I was being quiet in my own home. The house was silent. No TV, no music, nothing. I set my bag down in the entryway and slipped off my heels, the cold hardwood floor grounding me as I moved through the living room. That's when I heard it. Laughter. Soft, intimate laughter coming from upstairs, a woman's laugh that I knew as well as my own. Jessica, my best friend since college. The woman who'd been living in our guest room for the past 4 months while she got back on her feet after losing her job. The woman I'd bought groceries for, helped with her resume, let cry on my shoulder about how hard life was. I stood at the bottom of the stairs, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The logical part of my brain was screaming that I was overreacting. They were probably just talking, maybe watching something funny on a laptop. But my gut, that instinct I'd been ignoring for weeks, was telling me something entirely different. I made it up 3 stairs before I heard Michael's voice. Low, warm, the same tone he used to use with me before we got comfortable, before 7 years of marriage turned passion into routine. "You're so beautiful," he said. "I can't believe how lucky I am." I froze. My hand gripped the banister so tight my knuckles went white. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. "I know we have to be careful." Jessica's voice drifted down. "Sarah could come home anytime." "She won't," Michael replied, and I could hear the smile in his voice. "She texted me 20 minutes ago. Said her meeting's going to run until at least 3. We have time." I backed down the stairs, slowly, carefully, like I was defusing a bomb. I made it to the entryway, grabbed my bag and shoes, and walked out the front door. I sat in my car in the driveway of my own home, shaking so badly I had to hold my hands together to make them stop. How long? How long had this been going on? Right under my roof? In my own home? I thought about the past 4 months, really thought about it. The way Jessica had been so eager to help with dinner when Michael came home. How she'd started dressing nicer around the house, doing her makeup even when she had no job interviews lined up. The way Michael had suddenly been so supportive of her staying with us, even when I'd mentioned maybe it was time for her to look into her own place. "She's your best friend, Sarah," he'd said just last week. "We can't just kick her out. Where would she go? We have the space. Let's give her more time." I'd felt guilty for even bringing it up. God, I'd been so blind. Or maybe I just didn't want to see it. When you trust someone completely, when you've built a life with them, shared a bed with them for 7 years, you don't look for betrayal. You don't expect the person who vowed to love you forever to be sleeping with your best friend in the room down the hall from yours. I drove. I don't even remember where. I just drove until I ended up at a coffee shop 3 towns over, ordered something I didn't drink, and sat in a corner booth trying to figure out what to do. My first instinct was to storm back in there and confront them. Throw Jessica's stuff on the lawn. Scream. Cry. Make them feel even a fraction of what I was feeling. But then I remembered something my divorce attorney mother used to say. Emotion loses cases. Evidence wins them. I pulled out my phone and called my office, told them I had a family emergency and would be working from home the rest of the week. Then, I called a divorce lawyer my mother had recommended once, someone she said was ruthless but fair. I got an appointment for the next morning. When I finally came home that evening, I walked in like nothing had happened. Michael was in the kitchen making dinner, Jessica was setting the table, and they both looked up at me with such casual, normal smiles that I almost doubted what I'd heard. Almost, "Hey, babe," Michael said, coming over to kiss my cheek. "How was your day?" I wanted to vomit. Instead, I smiled. Long, really long. "What are you making?" "Pasta primavera," Jessica chimed in. I picked up fresh vegetables from the farmer's market. Thought we could all use a nice home-cooked meal. With whose money? I wanted to ask. Mine? The money I'd been giving her for gas and essentials while she looked for work? "That's so sweet of you, Jess," I said instead. "I'm going to change. Be down in a few." I went upstairs, walked past the guest room where Jessica had been sleeping these past 4 months, and stopped. The bed was made. Perfectly made. The kind of made that suggested it hadn't been used. I felt sick. In my own bedroom, the bed was slightly messed up. The same bed Michael and I shared. I looked closer. A blonde hair on his pillow. Jessica was blonde. I was brunette. I took a photo with my phone. Then I went to my home office, the room I'd been using less and less since Jessica moved in because I felt like I should spend my evenings being social with my guest. I opened my laptop and started doing research. Nanny cams. Small, hidden, wireless. I ordered 3 with overnight shipping, 1 for the living room, hidden in a picture frame, 1 for my bedroom, in a phone charger, 1 for the guest room, in a decorative clock. Over dinner, I watched them, really watched them. The way Jessica laughed at Michael's jokes a little too hard, the way his hand brushed hers when he passed her the salad, the look they shared when they thought I was checking my phone. It was all there. I'd just been too trusting to see it. "Sarah?" Michael's voice pulled me back. "You okay? You seem distracted." "Just work stuff," I lied. "Big campaign launching next week. My mind's all over the place." "You work too hard," Jessica said, reaching across to squeeze my hand. "You should take care of yourself more." The audacity. The absolute audacity of this woman to sit at my table, eat food bought with my money, in a home I was providing, while sleeping with my husband, and tell me to take care of myself. I squeezed back. "You're so right, Jess. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. About who really has my best interests at heart." Something flickered in her eyes. Guilt? Fear? It was gone too fast to tell. The cameras arrived the next day while I was at work but really meeting with the lawyer. Her name was Patricia Reeves, and she was exactly as my mother described. Sharp, efficient, and took no prisoners. "Do not confront them," she said after I told her everything. "Not yet. We need evidence. Photographs, texts, financial records." "You mentioned your husband is a real estate agent?" "Yes." "Is his name on the house?" "We're both on the deed and the mortgage." "Joint accounts, checking and savings?" "But I have a separate investment account he doesn't have access to, from before we got married." "Good. Keep it that way. In fact, let's make sure we have a full picture of all your assets. Has there been any unusual spending lately?" I thought about it. Actually, yes. He's been using the credit card more. Restaurants I've never been to. Hotels in the city. I thought they were work-related. He wines and dines clients sometimes. Patricia's smile was cold. "Get me those statements, all of them. And Sarah, whatever you do, act normal. Smile, be the loving wife, the supportive friend. Let them think they're getting away with it. The best revenge is the one they never see coming." I installed the cameras that afternoon, tested them on my phone. The quality was perfect. Crystal clear video and audio. Then I went about my day, my week, my life, as if my entire world wasn't falling apart. And I watched. Every day, I'd go to work and instead sit in my car in a parking garage watching the live feed from my home. The pattern was sickening in its predictability. I'd leave at 8. By 8:30, Jessica would go into the master bedroom. Michael would join her 15 minutes later, after making sure I was really gone by checking the driveway camera from his phone. They thought they were so careful, so smart. I documented everything, saved every video, backed them up in 3 different cloud accounts. Patricia was building a file that would bury Michael in divorce court, but I needed more. 3 weeks into my surveillance, I noticed Jessica looking sick in the mornings. She'd rush to the bathroom, come out pale. She started drinking ginger tea and avoiding coffee. My stomach dropped. I knew those signs. I'd seen enough friends go through it. Sure enough, 2 days later, I watched on my phone as she took a pregnancy test in the guest bathroom. Watched her hands shake as she waited. Watched her face light up when it showed positive. Then watched her call Michael at work. "We need to talk," she said when he answered. "Can you come home?" "What's wrong? Is Sarah there?" "She's at work." "Michael, I'm pregnant." There was a long silence on his end. Then, "Are you sure?" "I just took 3 tests. All positive." "Michael, what are we going to do?" "I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't panic. We'll figure this out." I saved that video, sent it to Patricia. Then I did something I hadn't done in weeks. I cried, big, ugly, shoulder shaking, sobs in my car in that parking garage where no one could see me fall apart. I'd wanted kids. Michael and I had talked about it for years. We'd been trying on and off for the past year. Or at least, I thought we'd been trying. Now I wondered if he'd been making excuses, if he'd been saving himself for her. I had to know. I called my doctor, scheduled an appointment, got a full fertility workup. The results came back a week later. I was perfectly fertile. There was no reason I couldn't conceive. The problem had never been me. Michael had been lying about trying, probably using protection with me while going bare with Jessica. The thought made me want to scream. Patricia called me into her office. "I have something you need to see." She spread out credit card statements across her desk, highlighted charges going back 6 months. Hotels, expensive dinners, jewelry purchases I'd never received. Even a weekend trip to Napa Valley that he'd told me was a real estate conference. "He's been planning this affair for a while, Sarah. This isn't new. The pregnancy just escalated things." "How far back?" "Based on the evidence, I'd say about 8 months, right around when Jessica moved in. So, it had been the plan all along. She hadn't needed a place to stay after losing her job. She'd needed access to my husband, and he'd invited her right into our home. "I want to destroy him," I said quietly. "Both of them." Patricia smiled. "Then let's give them enough rope to hang themselves." I went home that night and found them in the kitchen, looking serious. Michael cleared his throat. "Sarah, we need to talk to you about something." "Sure," I said, setting down my bag. "What's up?" Jessica glanced at Michael, then at me. "I'm pregnant." I let my face show surprise, shock, just the right amount of confusion. "Oh my God, Jess, that's, wow. I didn't even know you were seeing anyone. Who's the father?" She looked at Michael again. The guilt on both their faces was almost comical. "Actually," Michael said, "there's something we need to tell you. Jessica and I, we've developed feelings for each other. We didn't mean for it to happen. It just, we fell in love," Jessica interrupted, reaching for his hand. "Sarah, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. But Michael and I, we have something real, something neither of us expected." I stared at them, at their joined hands, at the audacity. "How long?" I asked quietly. "Does it matter?" Michael said. "How long?" "A few months," he lied. "Sarah, I care about you, but what Jessica and I have 8 months, I said. It's been 8 months since right around the time Jessica conveniently needed a place to stay after losing her job, which I'm guessing wasn't actually real, was it, Jess? Jessica's face went white. I don't know what you... Stop lying, I said, my voice sharp enough to cut glass. I know everything. The hotels, the restaurants, the weekend in Napa. I know about all of it. Michael stepped forward. Sarah, let me explain. Explain what? That you've been fucking my best friend in our bed while I paid for her groceries? That you got her pregnant while pretending to try for a baby with me? Please, Michael, explain that. You were spying on us? Jessica's voice was shrill now, defensive. I was documenting evidence, I corrected. For my divorce attorney, who, by the way, is very interested in those credit card statements. All those romantic dinners you two enjoyed on our joint account, the hotel rooms, the jewelry. I hope she enjoyed the necklace you bought her in October, Michael, the one that cost $3,000. His face went from red to white. Sarah, please, we can work this out. Work this out? I laughed, and it sounded unhinged even to my own ears. You want to work out the fact that you committed adultery, fathered a child with another woman, and used our marital funds to support your affair? Sure, let's work that out in court. I love him, Jessica said, putting a protective hand on her stomach. And he loves me. You can't keep us apart. We're having a baby. You're right, I said. I can't keep you apart. In fact, I'm going to make it very easy for you two to be together. Michael, I want you out of this house by tomorrow. Take whatever you need. The rest will divide through lawyers. This is my house too, he started. Actually, it's not. Did you forget? This house was a gift from my parents. Your name is on the mortgage to build credit, but the down payment, every renovation, every single improvement came from my inheritance. My lawyer will prove that in court. You'll be lucky if you live with anything more than your car. I turned to Jessica. And you have until tomorrow to find somewhere else to live. I don't care where, but you're not staying under my roof another single night. You can't just kick me out, she protested. I'm pregnant. I have nowhere to go. Then, I guess your baby's father better figure something out. That's not my problem anymore. I walked upstairs, packed a bag, and went to a hotel, the nice one downtown with the spa. I booked their best suite, ordered room service, and slept better than I had in months. The next morning, Patricia filed for divorce. Within hours, Michael's lawyer called, trying to negotiate. I told Patricia to give them nothing. I wanted blood. The divorce took 4 months. In that time, several things happened. First, the paternity test I insisted on confirmed Michael was the father of Jessica's baby. I made sure that was part of the public record. Second, the forensic accountant Patricia hired found that Michael had been hiding money, small amounts from commission checks deposited into an account I didn't know about. It wasn't much, about $15,000, but it was enough to prove financial infidelity on top of everything else. Third, my parents, who'd always treated Michael like a son, cut him off completely. That meant no more family connections in the real estate world, no more referrals, no more of the networking that had built his career. Fourth, Jessica's family found out. Her very Catholic, very conservative parents who'd known me since college and had always treated me like a daughter, they were horrified, ashamed. They told her she'd made her bed and now she had to lie in it. Fifth, and most satisfying, Michael's firm found out. Turned out, there's a morality clause in his contract. Sleeping with a client's friend's wife, using company resources to facilitate an affair, and the general scandal was bad for business. They didn't fire him, but they did demote him. Smaller accounts, smaller commissions, smaller future. The final divorce decree was everything I wanted. I got the house, I got 70% of our shared assets, I got my freedom. Michael was ordered to pay child support for the baby, substantial child support based on his previous income, not his current reduced one. Between that and the settlement, he was financially devastated. He and Jessica got married 3 weeks before the baby was born. A quiet courthouse ceremony. No family, no friends, just them and the consequences of their choices. I heard through the grapevine that they were struggling. Jessica couldn't work with a newborn and no childcare. Michael was drowning in debt between child support, alimony, and trying to maintain even a basic standard of living. They'd moved into a small apartment in a bad part of town. The fairy tale romance had become a nightmare of crying babies, money fights, and mutual resentment. Meanwhile, I threw myself into work. That big campaign I'd mentioned at dinner all those months ago, it was a massive success, led to a promotion, VP of Marketing, corner office, 30% raise. I started dating. Nothing serious. Just remembering what it felt like to be wanted, appreciated, chosen. I took trips. Italy, Greece. All the places Michael had always said we'd go someday, but someday never came. I made new friends. Real friends. Women who celebrated my success instead of coveting my husband. I rebuilt my life into something I actually loved, instead of something I was just comfortable with. 6 months after the divorce was final, I ran into them at a grocery store. Jessica looked exhausted, hair in a messy bun, stained shirt, circles under her eyes. The baby was crying in the cart. Michael looked older, defeated, the spark completely gone from his eyes. They saw me and froze. I was in workout clothes from the yoga class I'd just left, skin glowing, feeling better at 33 than I had at 25. "Sarah," Jessica said quietly. "You look great." "Thanks," I said. "I feel great. How's motherhood treating you?" She glanced at Michael, then at the screaming baby. "It's an adjustment. I'm sure it is." I looked at Michael. "How's work?" "Fine," he said tersely. There was an awkward silence. The baby kept crying. A price checker's beep echoed through the aisle. "Well," I said, "I should go. I have dinner plans. It was good seeing you both." I walked away, leaving them standing there with their crying baby and their grocery cart full of store-brand diapers and cheap pasta. I didn't look back. Later that night, over sushi with my new boyfriend, a pediatric surgeon who thought I hung the moon, I realized I didn't feel angry anymore. I didn't feel betrayed or hurt or bitter. I just felt free. Michael and Jessica had thought they were so clever, thought they'd found true love and I was just the obstacle in their way. They'd thought they'd won something. But looking at my life now versus theirs, I'd won. Not because I destroyed them in court, though that had been satisfying, but because I'd chosen to rebuild myself into someone stronger, happier, more complete than I'd ever been when I was trying to hold together a marriage with a man who didn't value me. They got exactly what they wanted, each other. And they got exactly what they deserved. A life built on lies, betrayal, and broken trust. A foundation that would never be solid, no matter how hard they tried. I got something better. I got me back. The me I'd lost somewhere in 7 years of trying to be the perfect wife to a man who didn't appreciate it. The me I'd buried under people-pleasing and being so afraid of being alone that I ignored every red flag. That night in my car, when I'd first heard them together, I thought my life was ending. Turned out it was just beginning. And the best part? They'd have to watch. Watch me succeed. Watch me thrive. Watch me live my best life while they drowned in the consequences of their choices. That's the thing about betrayal. The person who gets hurt usually comes out stronger. The people who do the betraying, they just find out that cheaters never really win. They just create new people to cheat with. I wondered sometimes how long it would be before Michael found someone new, before Jessica caught him the way I did, before their house of cards collapsed the same way mine had. But that wasn't my problem anymore. My only job was to live well, love hard, and never again ignore my gut when it told me something was wrong. Because the truth is always there if you're brave enough to look for it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You can only decide what you're going to do about it. I chose freedom. I chose myself, and I've never looked back.